Many Oklahoma gardeners struggle with fruit production in their tomato plants during the heat of the summer. Well, you'll be relieved to know that this is not due to some faulty gardening practices on your part, but more likely due to the weather. When the temperatures get too hot, the flowers on the tomato plant abort. And this occurs typically when daytime temperatures are above 85 to 90 degrees and nighttime temperatures are above 70 degrees. In Oklahoma, that's pretty much our whole summer. So a lot of commercial growers try to get around this problem by growing determinate varieties that produce all their fruit at once early in the season. But most home gardeners like to have fruit all season long and therefore plant indeterminate varieties that continue to fruit. So what can we do to get around this problem of poor fruit set during heat? There's a couple of things we could do. One is to look at different types of fruit varieties, and we've tried several in here. I've tried to identify some that produce well in the heat, and I've looked at different research and found a few names kept popping up, like Arkansas Traveler or Traveler 76, and also Heatwave 2. For the cherry tomatoes, chocolate cherry is one that we've included because it kept coming up as being heat tolerant. Porter Improved, and then the jelly bean for our grape tomatoes. And one of the things I've found in here is we definitely have differences in fruit set between the varieties. One of our best performers is going to be the jelly bean, and that's the small yellow grape tomato, which is just producing prolifically despite the heat. Now, another thing we tried to avoid heat stress on our plants is the use of a shade cloth. When the fruits are developing, the critical time period for them to pollinate is between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And so that's the period you want to think about cooling the plants off. And so we've put up a shade cloth using a PVC frame. We've kept it open to the east so that the plants get plenty of morning light, but shaded out the noonday sun and the afternoon sun, which can be quite hot. And we found that beneath the shade cloth, our plants are continuing to fruit and flower very well. So we're hopeful that this could be a very good technique to try in Oklahoma to continue getting your fruit set throughout the year. Now, we haven't taken data on this to compare the fruit set in the shade and in the sun, but so far it looks like a very promising method. Now, one thing you don't want to forget is there are other reasons that plants might not flower. One of these is water and the other is nutrition, particularly nitrogen. Either too much nitrogen or too little nitrogen can cause problems. When there's too much nitrogen, the plant puts all its growth into the leaves and it doesn't have energy for the flowers. When there's too little nitrogen, the spindly plants don't have energy to put into flower production. Now, water can be tricky. Drip irrigation is highly recommended for tomatoes, and you want to maintain a nice, even soil moisture. When the soil dries and gets wet and dries and gets wet, it causes stress on the plants, and that can cause these flowers to fall off. Another thing it does when you already have fruits on is it causes cracking. And I have a tomato in here that demonstrates that. Fluctuations in moisture are particularly bad when the fruit is expanding. And what happens if maybe you get a heavy rain like we did, the plant takes up a lot of water and the fruit just grows too quickly. And it more or less outgrows its skin and produces these cracks. And of course, that's going to allow insects or diseases to enter into the fruit. So in addition to managing your moisture and your fertility at recommended levels, you might consider selecting more heat-tolerant varieties for your garden, and even employing the use of shade cloth to keep those plants producing all summer long.